Yes, first of all, the Central Committee congratulated the CPIM and LDF in Kerala for this unprecedented victory that we have achieved in the Pala constituency. This is considered a stronghold of the UDF, and a very intense campaign was mounted against the LDF and the state government. But overcoming that, we won this election with a very handsome margin. So the first was to congratulate the Kerala committee of the CPIM and the LDF there. Secondly, the Central Committee continues to express its complete dismay over the continuation of the siege-like situation in Jammu and Kashmir. Government is claiming, under quotes, to their words called normalcy. Normalcy is existing in Kashmir. But the fact remains that Muhammad Yusuf Tarigami, who was allowed to travel to Delhi following a writ petition of habeas corpus that I had moved in the court, on our affidavits, the central government claimed that he is not under detention and he is not charged under any act of the government. Despite the Supreme Apex Court saying that he should approach the district authorities for his travels, the district authorities have simply refused to allow him or permit him to leave his house in Srinagar. They are not allowing anybody to enter his house to meet him, nor is he allowed to leave his house. So he is virtually under house arrest without declaring any detention or any law against him. This itself reveals what is the actual situation in Kashmir. The public transport is shut down. The shops are shut. The communications network continues to be completely cut off. The schools and shops and all commercial trading activity, people's movement, everything is being paralyzed. This is putting a continuous hardship on the people. And it's been more than 2 months now, nearly 2 months now. And now the court has said, the Supreme Court, that it will hear the petitions challenging the abrogation of Article 370 on the 14th of November. That is another 6 weeks. That means for more than 3.5 months, Kashmir will be in a total stage of shutdown. This is absolutely abnormal. And we think it is complete violation of human rights. And we therefore demand the immediate restoration of communications, restoration of public transport and movement of the people, removal of all restrictions on political activists and the leaders, and only then the announcement that they have made for holding elections to the Block Development Council of J&K, which the central government has announced. Only then, once the situation is restored with full communications and movement of the people and the rights of the political activists and civil liberties of the people, only then these elections can take place. Already, nearly 61% of the seats that constitute of the panchas and sarpanchas, which constitute the electoral college of these block development councils, they are lying vacant. With 61% of the seats lying vacant, these elections will only be a farce. It will be an effort by the government to try to portray that everything is normal in Kashmir. And this is something which will make a travesty of our democratic processes. So these elections can only be held once the activities in Kashmir are restored and civil liberties of the people are restored. So the CPIM continues to demand the restoration of complete activities, movement, civil liberties of the people, and release of all political detainees and activists. The other issues Central Committee discussed and considered was the question of the National Register of Citizens. Now, in all BJP-ruled state governments, the demand is being raised that NRC should be implemented in their states as well. This has been raised particularly in those states that are going for elections now, for the assembly elections, with a simple ploy of trying to sharpen polarization, communal polarization, which is the mainstay for the BJP's electoral successes. Now, as far as the CPIM Central Committee is concerned, the NRC is something specific to Assam. It was part of the Assam Accord, and it has been implemented under the supervision of the Supreme Court, and this cannot therefore be expanded or replicated in other states of the country. The CPIM is firmly opposed to the extension of NRC to other parts of India. Secondly, nearly 20 lakh people have been left out of the NRC in Assam. Now, these people's cases and appeals must be adjudicated by a legal authority. They are currently being referred to the Foreignness Tribunal. The Foreignness Tribunal is not a legal authority. It's an executive body, which the government now says that it has got quasi-judicial powers. But a proper legal body, a legal mechanism must be constituted to hear and adjudicate on all these cases. Those declared as foreigners by the Foreigners Tribunals are already being sent to detention camps. These detention camps have got abysmal human rights conditions, no facilities, and people there are living or surviving to live in very, very, very abnormal conditions. The CPIM Central Committee demands that these detention camps must be closed down forthwith. These people must be allowed to live as they are continuing to live until their cases are adjudicated by this judicial authority. Along with this, the BJP central government has started what is called the National Population Register. This is supposed to be enumerated house to house from between April and September 2020 in order to again determine who is a citizen of India or who is not. Like the infamous D-voter business and the doubtful voter that started in the Assam electoral list, this NPR will give rise to D-citizens, doubtful citizens, who then will form the basis for the NCRs to be instituted all across the country. This, we think, is a very, very, very serious game aimed at sharpening polarization, and in this process, the very unity and integrity of our society and our country is coming under very grave danger. So we think that once the Aadhaar has been universalized, virtually everybody has got the Aadhaar. Everybody's Aadhaar is now interlinked with various other services. Once this has been universalized, there is absolutely no need for a duplication of an NPR. This NPR must be stopped forthwith. And along with this, the Election Commission has also announced a new, very peculiar program called the Elector Verification Program. That means you and I have to go online and verify that we are an voter. Now, going online to verify, large parts of India will be left out automatically. In rural India, those who don't have access to internet, etc., they'll all be out of coverage, again creating doubts and misgivings. And secondly, you now have photo identity electoral rolls. And every voter has got an epic. Once you have these epic cards and the photo identity voters list, there is absolutely no need for again a duplication of this electoral verification process, or what is called the EVP. And to top all of this, once in Assam also there is a great deal of opposition that has come to the NRC because a large number of non-Muslims or Hindus have been left out of the NRC. In order to assuage the Hindus, the Home Minister announced that in the next session of Parliament they will bring the Citizenship Amendment Bill. That means everybody else except Muslims will be granted Indian citizenship. Now the CPIM Central Committee has very firmly opposed the linkage of granting Indian citizenship with religion. This linkage is ultra vires of our constitution. Our constitution guarantees citizenship and democratic rights, quote, irrespective of caste, creed or sex, unquote. This will be completely violated by this, what is being proposed as the CAB. So therefore, on all these four processes, what we are demanding is that already your Aadhaar exists, your electoral rolls exist, your EPIC exists, your all the other identities that you have given to our people, they all exist, and all the interlinkages are virtually complete between these. So now to start all these processes again is a huge waste of money. And when the economy is now undergoing a recession, this sort of a wastage of public money is completely unnecessary. So we oppose all these measures. And we say they are aimed only to sharpen polarization, which is the electoral backbone of the BJP. Next, the Central Committee expressed its very deep concern over the economic crisis currently gripping India. We are no longer in an economic slowdown. We have entered a recession. We have entered a recession, and that is now confirmed today again by the RBI lowering the growth rate for the year. Even by their doctored data of the 2011-12 base series, even by that, in this 1 year, from the first quarter to the third quarter, our growth rate fell from 8 point something to 5%. Now this is leading to a large number of close downs of factories, layoffs of people who have been working, and reported loss of some tens of lakhs of people from various sectors, the worst of course being the automobile and your textile sectors. But it's universal. The agrarian distress continues to compound. The real incomes in rural India have plummeted. And with the job loss, this year alone is estimated by the CMI that 1.1 crore people who were working last year are today jobless. 4.5 crores of our youth that has been estimated to be without jobs. So this is a crisis of unprecedented dimension. And this economic recession is adding to the agony of the people, and every day you now have hikes in petroleum prices and more burdens being imposed on the people. Now, why is all this happening? According to us, according to the CPIM Central Committee, the reason behind this economic recession is a sharp fall in domestic demand in the country. People don't have money to buy. And instead of taking steps in order to enlarge the purchasing power of the people, the government has announced SOPs for massive cuts for the corporates and the rich. 70,000 crores of concessions to your export sector and to your reality housing sector. People are not buying houses because they don't have money. What is the point giving concession to the builders to build the house? Unless people have the money, the situation can't change. Then they, on top of that, announced 1,45,000 crores of cuts, tax cuts, massive tax cuts, withdrawal of your capital gains tax on your foreign financial institutions, investors who come into our stock markets. And this sort of concessions given to foreign and domestic corporates and big capital is only increasing their profits without putting in additional paisa in the hands of the people to enhance their purchasing power. What is required, according to the CPIM Central Committee, is that if this nearly 2.10 lakh crore rupees, 70 plus 145, 2.15 lakh crore rupees, instead of giving concessions to the rich, if this was invested in public investments to build our much needed infrastructure. India has very substantive infrastructure in many parts, in many areas. And building that infrastructure would have, for that, many lakhs of new jobs could have been generated. Our unemployment could be tackled. The workers who now get the jobs, when they start spending their wages, then the closed factories will start reopening. Then demand will start growing. Instead of enlarging the demand in the economy, the government is doing the opposite. I don't think that this government has today got the capacity to meet this crisis. The only way it can be done is actually to force the government to utilize all the reserve funds of the RBI that it has swallowed, plus withdraw these concessions and put all these sums of money in massive public investment to build our much needed infrastructure and generate jobs and create employment and therefore enlarge the purchasing power of the people. This is the way forward, and for that the Central Committee decided to endorse the call given by the left parties that from the 10th to the 16th of October, all India protest actions will be held all across the country. And on the 16th of October, there will be militant actions that will be conducted by the left parties all across the country. At the same time, we have appealed to all the other political and social movements who are willing to join us on these demands. The Charter of Demands is there in the communique that we have put forward to you. On this Charter of Demands, all those who are willing to come, we will welcome them to come and join this as a joint protest and to force the government to change the direction of its method of tackling the economic crisis. Then the Central Committee also discussed the forthcoming assembly elections and the approach that we will adopt in the states, particularly of Maharashtra and Haryana. Our main objective in these elections of that of the left would be to defeat the communal fascistic BJP in these elections. As the elections come closer, they'll try and whip up greater passions and rouse communal and sharpen communal polarization. For that, we will work with all the secular democratic parties and forces to ensure that the target of defeating the BJP can succeed. So we are in talks with these parties in these states, and as the dates come close, the electoral arrangements will be made and announced. Finally, the Central Committee had decided that 2020 is the centenary of the foundation of the communist movement in India. 17th of October 2020, the Communist Party of India was formally born. So the Central Committee is given a call for a year-long observation from the 17th of October 2019, culminating on 17th of October 2020. And this year-long observations will be essentially to bring out the various important phases of the history of the communist movement in India, its contributions to the creation of modern India that we have today, and its role in the freedom struggle, and subsequently the role in championing the interests of the people and the downtrodden. This will be the main thrust. There will be a series of publications and series of other activities that will be associated with this centenary observations. So these are the main issues that we had discussed.